What's up, Cleveland? It's time to turn up the conversation. Tune in to the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show for What's on Your Mind Tuesdays. Call in, comment, and connect on 95.9 FM WOVU, WOVU.org, and hit us up on social media.
All right, we are all back. We had a little Anita Baker break. That's what that was. And now we are all back, and we're sounding pretty good. Other than I got a little feedback that I just killed. All right, so other than that, we are all back, and we're ready to go. Dr. Burton has flew in, and I think we're going to start our show all over again from the very top. Here we go again. So, hey, welcome to our program. You're listening to Strategic Moves radio program with Kenn Dowell and Dr. Heather E. Burton every Tuesday right here on WOVU 95.9 FM, where we bring it to you just like you need to hear it, whether you like it or not. And today is election day, and we're going to bring some real good information about everything that's going on and all the stuff that's happening before we get going. Unicorn, he pulled your mic down. We got to pull it right back up. Unicorn, just give us a quick update of what's happening around the city.
What's happening? How you doing? How you living? How you feeling, Mr. Kenn?
Everything is everything.
Yeah, can y'all hear me okay? There we
go.
go. Hey, so yesterday there was a press conference that was called between our beloved mayor, Mayor Bibb, and,
what was that
and our esteemed governor, Mike DeWine.
Right. That was like scary movie.
Because I feel like that's what I'm in some type of psychological thriller here, and you know, I'm just trying to keep up with it all. But yes, they called a press conference yesterday to highlight the results of a 2-year partnership between the city, the state, and federal law enforcement by following data and focusing on shootings, homicides, and carjackings. Authorities have made more than 1,400 felony arrests and seized 1,000 guns since the summer of July 2023. The main point of the conference was to highlight many repeat offenders simply repeat, and they want to get a grasp on these repeat offenders and pretty much bring the hammer down. But a day before the election to highlight all of these amazing statistics was kind of interesting to me. But it's been all good. It's all good things to report, of course. But you're not going to highlight the bad the day before election, of course. Too.
Oh, no. You don't want to send people
can't
out.
do that.
You gotta know you can't do that. And there's enough going on in this town.
It is.
You know, so you got to leave the people on the high before election day.
Yes, of course. Speaking of that, the number of homicides in Cleveland has fallen 41% since reaching a peak of 189 killings in 2020. And that is according to the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner data that has been provided to us. Last year, there were 111 homicides in the city, and there has been 99 homicides as of October 27 this year. Again, information from the Medical Examiner's Court.
So Cleveland is becoming a safer place to live.
And the objective is to continue that safety. They're not actually calling for anyone as of right now besides the assistance of the federal DEA, pretty much all the acronyms that we love, the SBI, the DEA.
All
they
the
just
three
want,
initials.
Yes,
Yeah.
all the initials, all the
Top
acronyms.
authority, we call them in the hood.
Yes, they
All
want them all.
Top authority.
That's top authority.
They want them
top
all.
authority.
And I do understand repeat offenses are definitely something to be highlighted, but I'm interested to see where the focus when it comes to sexual offenses will be highlighted at one point. I think maybe once we address this public health crisis of gun violence, you know, maybe that'll be the time, one focus at a time. I understand that, you know.
One thing at a time, Uni.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Uni, we want to solve the problems all in one setting.
We can't. If we do that,
I wish
then
we
what we gonna
could.
do?
I know.
We ain't gonna have nothing else to do.
I know.
All right, so
Well, I can think of some other things we can do, Ken.
There's so many other things we could do.
we gotta have something to do.
If we can fix everything in one setting, I
no.
can think of some things we could do.
Well, speaking of things that was being done, Dr. Burton is back in the house. She took her little hiatus and took a tour before we go. Thank you, Unicorn, for the update.
Yes.
Thank you. So back to you, Doctor.
Yeah.
Now, you had a full weekend and you
did.
had a few weeks off. You've been traveling. You're doing all kinds of speaking engagements and everything.
Yeah.
Tell us what's been going on with Dr. Burton.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a week off. I don't know if I can call it off. I just wasn't at the radio station. But off, that's a term I would not use. So I'm trying to think. Last we were here, I turned in my book.
Yes.
I completed my book, so I finally got all of that turned in. That was turned in on the 20th. So that's exciting. Can't wait for it to see it in publication.
So when you turn it in, that's done. Now it's ready to be published?
Yeah. So I had to turn it into the publishing company. So this book is with Routledge Publishing, an academic publisher. And I had a due date of October 1st. They gave me an extension. I turned it in on the 20th. The extension date, I got it in on the 20th. But one of the things that was interesting, we can talk about it later, but is that with the work, it's finding out. So I talked about separatism and how many people are proponents of the facets of separatism, meaning Black pride, Black dignity, sense of belonging, community. But yet, when I surveyed them, 83% overwhelmingly voted for integration. And so it's interesting how people have it, and that's why the book is about really the misunderstanding of separatism.
Okay.
Because most folks misunderstand separatism. They label it as segregation. And so they don't have a conceptual understanding of what separatism is. And so the book originally started as Unapologetically Black, The Misunderstanding of Separatism.
Okay.
But the title changed. And we did it more applicable to student success and historically in spaces in higher ed. So that was one thing. Then I was in North Carolina doing some work there, had the women's conference. That was a success. We had a great time. We shot episodes of the podcast. We did that. Came back. I think I had to present. I've got 3 presentations this week. Three presentations that I'm doing this week. Yeah. So it's for somebody who does not have a job, she got a lot of jobs.
Yeah, you got a lot of jobs.
But I need employment with benefits. See, when you've been a starving artist before, I did that for years, being that actress and model with no paycheck, living paycheck to paycheck with no benefits. I don't want that. I don't want that life right now. I don't want it. Mm-mm.
So we throwing hints out there. So anybody
there, hiring,
y'all hiring out there, y'all need to get Dr. Burton here. It's a steal.
Right.
It's a steal. So you need to call and act now while you can.
Act now.
Act now.
I can't wait to get into today's conversation because this is why I'm late. But I'm gonna wait till we get into this about voting. And my experience, what happened to me just now when I went to vote.
Well, we're gonna get right to it then. So we ain't gonna waste no time. We got the man of the hour in our studio today. He came in and we talked about voting. And this guy here knows a lot about voting. In fact, there's people actually out there today voting for him. So he came on the program today to bring us up to speed on a whole lot of things because there's a lot been going on. And we're coming to the end of the year. I'm going to have him on the podcast either at the end or maybe at the beginning of next year where we go unfiltered. For anybody who wanted to hear the unfiltered truth about everything we talk about, you need to check his podcast out. But on the radio today, he's here. He is our city council president of the city of Cleveland, and he is unopposed. No one is running against him this year. He had an opportunity to just put his name on the ballot and go from there. And he's here today to talk about some stuff. We're going to talk about the election, what's going on in the city of Cleveland, some of the races that's going on, as well as some of the hot topics that was going on in the city of Cleveland over the last few weeks. So without further ado, we want to give a warm welcome to Council President Blaine Griffin to our program. What's
Good,
Blaine. I gotta say this, Ken. You don't know this. I think I told you, but Doc just been telling me what to do for the last, several years. She's one of the first people I met when I first got off the bus into Cleveland, and I just have to say I'm so proud of her, man. She's doing phenomenal things. Really.
Excellent.
Well, that's how I feel about Council President Blaine Griffin. I'm just sitting here looking like we started in the Mount Pleasant area together.
That's what he told me.
We started
Yep. Yeah. I was doing an internship with Mount Pleasant Now Development Corporation.
Right.
And that community development work, and that's where Blaine and I first met.
Yep.
And
That's what
Now,
he told me. He
this
said,
many years later.
He said, I knew her from before I was who I am today.
Yeah.
She knew me when I had hair and a beard.
Hair and a beard. Yeah, and look, you knew me before I had all the degrees.
Hey,
I
that's-
think
Wow.
I only had
That's why
I
I'm so
had
proud
one.
of her.
I had gotten my bachelor's and I was finishing my master's at the time.
And she's only one of the leaders of one of the best sororities.
Oh, here we
and
go.
my sisters,
I
home
agree.
and love. You know what I mean?
I
I'm Omega
agree.
Psi Phi. She
There's no other. There's no other sorority. No
home,
other.
home
no
and love.
other.
Y'all don't know anything about that.
Yeah, there you
If
go.
I wish Mike was here so we could rub it in on him a little bit.
There you go. He's listening, so he heard you.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
He's probably gonna call in a minute.
Yeah. Oh no, he'll be here in a minute.
Right.
You fronted on his frat, so he's gonna be running through
He'll
the
be
door.
running through the door.
You know, y'all be playing about that. So, Council President, I'm looking here at these numbers. Like the city of Cleveland is under election here. You got a mayor's race. We got council races. We got judge races. Any other thing on the ballot this year?
Just housing court, and then also like you said, council races, mayor's races, and then I think we have about 2 judges that are running.
Yeah, it's
judicial
interesting. We're
races.
looking at the numbers right now, just for folks out there, just to kind of give y'all some idea of what's going on out there. We got Ward 1, Councilman Joe Jones and Juanita Brandt. They in a heavy fight out there, and right now they're looking like at 11% turnout on election day. That's happening out there. Their early vote numbers was pretty decent. They had less than 1,000 people, but right now they're just under 1,000 people coming in voting at this point. Ward 2, Bishop was unopposed, so he didn't have much going. So his turnout over there is at 7%. Ward 4, Gray. She has a
No,
race.
actually, the new Ward 4 is Christopher Harsh, Old Brooklyn.
Really? All right. So, yeah, I'm glad you said that because this ain't like it used to be
Right,
anymore.
right.
Okay, so Ward 4 is now on the west side.
Old Brooklyn.
Old
By
Brooklyn.
the zoo, all of that area.
And that would be Chris Harsh, and Chris Harsh is at 11%. Ward 5 is still Ward 5.
Ward 5 is still Ward 5.
Ward 5 is still Ward 5. Richard Starr. Very low turnout. That's a competitive race there. And right now, Richard is doing what they normally do over there. He's at around 6%. And on election day, going through the door so far, about 341 people, 586 people early vote. What's your thoughts over on that race, Blaine?
Well, the low turnout traditionally favors the incumbent because that means that their base is getting out to support them. So I hate to say it, but a lot of times incumbents don't mind low turnout, whereas some areas that we're in that are the unopposed race, a lot of us have been trying to go to new pockets where people don't know us in order to try to drive up numbers in those areas. For example, I have an area of Huff that I never had before. I have a third of my ward of Ward 6 is new. So these are voters that you don't know and that you haven't had contact with over the last few years. So you target those areas to try to get more turnout. But, you also got larger wards now, too, which is also playing into this.
So that race out there between those two put you in a really fickle this year because of the 2 candidates. You had to make some tough decisions on there. What you say as it relates to that and how everything turned out so far?
Well, one of the things that's a misnomer is that I get along with all of the colleagues that I serve with now. I just had to make some tough decisions. And one of the things that I know I get accused from some progressive wings to say, oh, well, you gerrymandered or this, that, and everything else. No, we tried to listen to council people who know their neighborhoods. And one neighborhood that we tried to figure out was for the councilwoman running against Starr, which we actually tried to say, hey, what do you think about working and, running in the old Joe Simperman ward, which Ken, you remember, used to wrap around from St. Alexis Hospital over on Broadway,
Correct.
all the way downtown, and then across the river over into Ohio City and Tremont. It's been done before. So we thought that was a precedent that might have been good. She didn't like it. Therefore, she wound up being drawn into a district where she had to run against her colleague.
She in a tough fight because that boy Richard Starr is a beast.
He's campaigning hard. And let me say this, I chose to support Starr over him for several reasons. I'm unapologetically black, and I believe that there's a tradition in the Ward 5 area. When you look at the Stokes brothers, Lonnie Burton, Frank Jackson, Phyllis Cleveland, all of the other black excellence that comes from out of Ward 5. When you look at the opportunity for have a heavier African-American presence in the central business district, I think Starr met all of the check marks, and that's one of the reasons why we supported Starr with the Council Leadership Fund, which I'm responsible for raising the money in order to try to invest in candidates.
So let's talk about that fund, since you brought it up. There's a group of people. See, if this was unfiltered, y'all really get the truth. So you need to check out them podcasts. I'm trying to tell y'all. But here we go. Let's talk about council leadership. There's a group of people who feels that taking money from the council leadership is a kiss of death. You got some awards on the west side, and you got even candidates that are actually campaigning on the fact that they shouldn't receive money from the council leadership. For the folks out there who don't know what council leadership is, won't you explain to them what's the council leadership and what's the council leadership fund?
So every legislative body in America has political action committees. Congress has it. The state legislature has it on the Republican and Democratic side in both branches. And city council has it as a legislative body. Traditionally, the council president is the one who leads that, who actually goes and raises the money, and who actually gives out the money to the candidates who support the platform that the council leadership is trying to put together as our team. So people have problems because sometimes they don't like the people who give to the council leadership fund. And I tell people all the time, if you take money out of, I'll be the first one to say, if you take money out of politics and make them publicly funded so that you can have a fair chance, I'll be the first one to say, hey, sign up. I'll sign up for that. However, what always gets me is that the main people that are talking about this and shaming the council leadership fund have raised money from California interests, Illinois and Chicago interests, New York interests. So some of these young privileged kids, young privileged folks, young privileged, I don't want to call them kids, but young privileged, in a lot of cases, white kids from affluent communities have their alumni association where they can go to the Harvard Alumni Association or the Stanford Alumni Association and raise $100,000. Well, you know what? Richard Starr can't do that. But Blaine Griffin can get on the phone and call most corporate leaders and say, hey, I need you to help us set up a fund so that I can help the candidates that can bring good government to Cleveland. And that's why I think it's a farce that some people want to say, oh, well, you can't raise money because we don't like your friends. Well, sometimes I don't like their friends either.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
I ain't even got no response for that one. I'm with you on that
That's
one.
a drop the mic.
Yeah.
I don't like your friends either. But I think that's one of the things that happens, and especially when we talk about politics, is that folks are quick to justify it for their needs, but then it's wrong for your needs when it advances what you think should not be advanced.
Exactly. And I call it a victim mentality. I don't like victims. You know, you ever realize, it's like the old adage, a schoolyard bully. Some of these guys want to smack you upside your head, punch you in your nose, but then when you retaliate and hit back, then they say, oh, what you're doing is wrong. You're overstepping your bounds. Right. I'll be honest with you. I was sleeping. I was busy trying to govern because in my world, there's a such thing as activism, which I started out with Doc as an activist. Then there's politics, how you build coalitions. Me and you developed our craft in politics. But the hardest part is governing. So I was busy governing until I wake up one day and look at the newspaper and this progressive committee says we're going to raise money to target 4 races that we want to try to target for progressive causes. And I said, oh, crap, I better get to work. And I start picking up the phone and raising money. And subsequently have been able to raise probably about $175,000 to $200,000 and been able to spend probably about $125,000 or more. Probably it'd be about $150,000 when it's all said and done for candidates that support the platform that you, me, and all of us believe in.
All right, well, let's just keep moving on then. Award 6 is still you. Right,
Ward
no
6
opponent. You got lucky. Nobody decided to take on the council president this year. Ward 7 is still the old Ward 7. That's councilwoman.
Ward 7 is new. Ward
new.
7 is the only ward that crosses the bridge. And when people talk about redistricting, which was a hot topic, that is the only district, the only ward that goes across the river now, which is downtown. which is the lakefront and all of that area, down in that area, over to Ohio City.
But it's still Stephanie.
But it's not Stephanie.
No.
Actually, Ward 8 is now Stephanie House Jones.
So new 7 is
New
now.
7 is going to be run between a guy named Austin Davis
Wow.
and a guy named Muhammad Faraj. And they're running, and both of them have special interest money. I'll leave it at that.
They one of the candidates we was just talking about.
They really, Faraj is a candidate that's backed by the progressives. He also has a lot of Palestinian money, where his family is of Palestinian heritage, so their community rallied around him to raise a lot of money. And Davis raised a lot of money from Jewish constituencies, as well as a lot of other downtown business interests, because he's well known and he's a Harvard attorney, and he basically was able to get a lot of that vote.
So let's see what they're doing over there. It looks like, and their vote total over there, they up at 11. They're just as high as Jones or anyone else right about now. They got, and a lot of people walk through the door. They got over 1,200 people that walk through the door over there. That's going to be that's a big race going on.
It's going to be a big race, and a lot of money has been put into that race because, like I said, it's the old Simperman ward, and that's the Ohio City, Tremont area. So a lot of affluent people that have a lot of big checks that they could write live in that area.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The checks, and like you said, just the money that has gone into it, and with the candidates, with the money that's going into it.
Then the Ward 8 is what we were just. That's Stephanie
House Jones.
Call it Stephanie Tubbs Jones. Stephanie House Jones.
Now this
Now,
is
Stephanie Tubbs Jones come back and run.
Oh, she'll win.
As much as I love
This is
Stephanie,
it.
I
What's
might,
for today?
that might be the call for the scary music.
Right. We would say, yeah, that would freak
our
everybody
girl,
out.
That'd freak us all out. But Stephanie has a very interesting ward.
Yeah.
Her ward goes from West 6th Street all the way out to the Huff community. And what makes her ward very unique, which I did not know until I went through the redistricting process, is how many people live down in that West 6th between that central business area by West 6th. And guess what else they count as population in that area? The county jail.
Are
Really?
you serious?
So the population that's attributed to the county jail also gets attributed to that population in Ward 8.
So what happens when the county jail moves?
Then it'd
they
be
gonna go
attributed
into-
to Garfield, which is another reason why we try to, I mean, I know you should never look at it like this way, but these are population hits that
Oh, no,
one
I
day we need
understand.
to start talking
I
about. in
understand.
Cleveland.
We
But
understand.
yeah, that now goes, and that population will now be attributed to Garfield.
How many people
And they
would
could
you
still
jump?
vote. A lot of people don't know this.
Oh, yeah.
They could
They
still
still
vote
vote. Right.
absentee
Right.
if they're not convicted of a felony or serving any time as a felony, which most of the people that's in there are not in there for felonies. They're in there for misdemeanor crimes, which means that they can actually still vote absentee.
So it was a couple hundred people in there, or more
Probably
than
more than that.
that? Really?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I know it is more than that. It's like 1,200
It's like
people.
1,200.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit
I
more
did
than
the number.
couple hundred.
It hit me. I remember I did the numbers on
1,200.
that. It's 1,200
So
people
that's why
down there.
when people say, why would we work with some of these disparate communities,
Right.
like the reentry community, because there's value there.
Yeah.
Like, this is gold, silver and gold that some people cast away. Why you think that they're doing this Project 2025 so that they could try to minimize and diminish the clout that we've built in certain areas that people have been sleeping on for years?
That is very interesting.
It
man.
is.
I forgot all about the jail, and that's
I guess, and I never even thought about it. The things that I'm learning today, I never even thought about the jail being included in the population numbers.
Yep,
But that's their place of residency.
exactly.
Ward
And 2,100.
2,100.
Which is the homeless shelter. And what's
yeah.
interesting
I
about
remember- I
that
knew the
is
homeless
when a
shelter
lot
was
of times, because a lot of these other cities don't have a good social service network like Cleveland. So what a lot of the prisons will do is they'll say, where do you want to get dropped off at your home address? And they'll go to 2,100. So that's another big, large population of homeless people that a lot of people don't realize are big pockets of votes too.
Interesting. Ward 9 used to be Conwell.
That is still Conwell. That is the area that I split with University Circle, and he's picked up most of Glenville and go all the way to South Collinwood. So he's picked up a lot of that area.
Yeah, he actually ended up picking up his old ward
His old
when
ward.
he very first started running
Right.
years ago. So he was really happy about that. Ward 10, is that still 10?
That's still 10. It's a very interesting race.
Before we
that's,
jump into that,
this is a
Conwell's
race.
number, He's at 7, so Conwell's at about 8% turnout in his area right about now. 700 some odd people walk through the door at this time. And the reason why I'm giving these numbers because the more competitive races, we gonna tell these numbers are gonna look crazy, and that leads in to where we're going now. Ward 10, with Ward 10 happening, they had about 1,000 people voted early, and as of right now, Ward 10 is leading the east side of what I know of the east side, because every time I think something east, Blaine tell us it's west now.
Right.
But what do we know of the east side right now? Look like Ward 10 is in the lead. Ward 10 got 12%, almost 13% turnout. 1,100 some odd people walked through the door today. Interesting race. Councilman Polensek against the young buck, Anthony Harrison. 50 years of politics in one office versus the young guy. So, Blaine, that was one that I know that was one that we all got some insight on. We talked about it on the show a little bit. Councilman Polensek basically changing his mind. If this was unfiltered, like I keep telling y'all, you would really understand what I mean, but I will keep it clean here. Councilman Polensek decided he was going to run after he told everybody he wasn't. Put Anthony Harrison in such a kind of bit of a pickle out there, and at this point of now, it looks like they're in a very tough battle, and the people out there are trying to figure it all out. So what you say, how that works out?
Well, it's unfortunate because, I was privy to a lot of those conversations, and, the dean, because of his constituents, got talked back in. And at the end of the day, we tried to work it out. There was not a lot of room for whatever reason. Both of them, Anthony, conceded a lot of the ward that he represented in order to, with the assumption that Polensek was going to be retiring. At the end of the day, you have two large bases of people. Both of them are both sons of Collinwood. Polensek has a ward that has trended to be more African American, but Polensek has done a masterful job throughout the years of changing his tone and personality to appeal to the African American community that lives in the Collinwood area. However, Anthony brings a lot of new, fresh energy. He's a very smart young man, and he's resonated with a lot of people. I think that's going to be a lot closer than people originally thought, because I think that Anthony is really going to appeal to, your mother, my mother, your grandmother, or somebody else's grandmother that's saying, you know what, let's give this young man a shot, because, we've dealt and we've had, this gentleman for years, and, the neighborhood is changing, and I think people are going to try to give Anthony a shot. But at the end of the day, it's unfortunate because here are two guys, once again, that were allies. And, at the end of the day, all I've ever asked both of them to do is to run a clean race. But as you've seen over the last week, it got a little bit messy.
Ugly. That's what I was going to say, man. Black men are always under attack. And this situation is no different to me, because the guy he's running against doesn't need to be running. And he done retired twice. He lived his whole career off of the government, period. That's the only thing he knows, Doc. You saying you trying to find a job. Can you imagine retiring twice from the same job and you still decide to run again? I mean, it's really sad that we have a young African-American male, and I say that because you said it, the ward is trending African-American, that's in that position that when this is over with, if the man is successful, look what he did. You put a gentleman, his family, everybody in the unemployment line for what?
Yeah.
Right.
For what? And that's the part of it that I just really have no respect for anybody to do that. And if this was unfiltered, you guys would really hear what I got to say. Go ahead, Doc.
And he's trying to lead down, that's all I'm going to say, is he's trying to lead down that road of it being unfiltered.
But Ken, you missed one thing.
Go ahead.
Black people went and got him to run.
No, I don't. You know what?
And a lot of people don't like. I mean, I'm telling you that these African American people told me personally, and several people, that we encouraged him to run. And that's what he utilized as
It's
his excuse. And that's where sometimes, as Doc said, about what she said so that was so profound, talking about the difference between segregation and integration. And how people always would talk about segregation, but at the end of the day, how many black folks say, when I moved over here, I was the first black folk that lived on this street.
And they didn't want me here.
And they didn't want me
And they
here.
threw rocks at
And
me
they
when we
did
had to
this.
go to
But
school
then,
and all of
they
that.
stayed there in these communities, and now these communities are trending to be almost always almost all African American, but they still have that tendency to remember the good old days when they used to be
because
integrated.
the black folks who knows the past don't want to share the past, and they want to act like it didn't happen. One thing I learned from this radio station that I took from Ben Goldstein, Rabbi, he said this on one of his shows. He said that there was always a group of black folks who told Master where the hole in the fence was.
And that's
was.
reality.
And that's reality.
That's a
And
rabbi.
that's
That's
the rabbi
reality.
said it was
Right.
always a group of black folks who told the master where the hole in the fence
Yeah.
was. And that's how they got caught. So when I hear those people, when you say that told him that was it, that wasn't a community. That was them people who stood by the fence and told Mike Polensek years after years where the holes were and told him he was good enough to continue to do it. Again, you told me I'm getting close to my filter. I'm trying to not do this. I'm sounding, this is my radio voice. I'm about to get into my unfiltered voice. We got to keep going because I don't want to get it. Can't go down that road. Let's talk about Ward 12. Where the heck is Ward 12 at now?
Now, Ward 12 is over on the west side. It is the former Edgewater, Coudale, a lot of that area right there. Danny Kelly is the person that's running over there. He's running against another progressive candidate. And what always gets me, I just got to say this about these progressive candidates. They come from these wealthy families that are like extremely wealthy. He comes from a very wealthy Indian heritage family. But then they come over here and they know how to sing our tune about poor people and people of color better than like they're civil rights activists. But at the end of the day, they come from extreme amount of wealth, but they've learned how to do what Trump does. Where they basically makes, the wealthy makes the oppressed believe that they're oppressed too.
Right.
And they have their best interests. And that's what gets me about a lot of these folks when they start talking about that evil Blaine and that evil council leadership fund. Man, Ken, I tell you this all the time. Me and my missus could have left a long time ago and moved out the city of Cleveland, and we chose to stay here and always been here in the city of Cleveland. These guys, man, come here and they try to act like they have Cleveland's best interests, but they've never had to deal with missing a meal, dealing with poor people, but they come here and they try to speak poor people's language better than we do.
Yeah, that's time and time again. But they follow the blueprint because we gave them a blueprint. And they just follow the same blueprint. And it's not just them. White folks do it too. They do it, and every time there's a issue. That's why right now they following a blueprint, and they mad at black folks because they're saying we're not following the print. We ain't watching. Why y'all not protesting with us? Why aren't y'all standing with us on this? Because they imagine we supposed to be following the blueprint we put out.
I think, listening, Blaine, is that you hear stuff like this. And we know it, and we see through it, but getting the average person to see through the BS.
Right.
Because that's exactly what it is that, and especially when we talk about this lens of you've never had this experience, and instead of saying and being on the honest side of saying, this hasn't been my experience, but I'm committed to moving the community along.
Right.
We try to folks try to pretend I've had this experience and I know better than you do. And I think that it's like when do we stop believing the BS?
And you got to be and see what makes that narrative so dangerous. And I learned this from my guy Frank Jackson is it's called a white savior complex. That in order for somebody that wants to come in and for somebody to actually be in a position of power and authority, they need somebody to lord over. So they need to have somebody who I'm fighting for you. I'm standing in the gap for you. And that is not empowerment.
No.
That's not true community empowerment. That's not true community leadership. But that's kind of message that they have. But when you do that, you always got to be careful because those type of people always want somebody to be subjected to their power.
That's very interesting because it is a combination of that. And me and you were talking the other day when you said you met Blaine. He had the afro and the beard. And when we met him, Blaine used to walk around with these papers. He used to walk around like Charlie Bibb. He used to have a... I don't know if y'all do Charlie Bibb. There are folks out there who know Charlie Bibb know exactly what I'm talking about. Blaine used to walk around with Charlie Bibb. He used to carry this Willie Lynch speech. And we used to have this meeting. We was Blacks United and Local Democracy. We had it called Build. And we used to have these meetings every first Saturday of the month. And Blaine would, I'm going to tell y'all something y'all didn't know about this dude. He used to trip us out with this. Blaine used to be that brother who come in the meeting before I could speak. Any elders in the room? Can I get y'all permission to speak? And we be like, and sometimes I was the oldest one in there.
You had to get permission.
So that was one of the things that used to trip us out. And he used to carry this. He would never let us leave this meeting until he had to lecture us about the Willie Lynch syndrome and how everybody was going to be victims of this Willie Lynch syndrome. So that had to be, because he was talking about, believe it or not, my daughter was here, and he was just sitting here talking. Me and him used to go to the NICU to see her when she was a baby. She was in the hospital 5 months.
Right.
And me and him used to go to these and go visit her. So it had to be. How old are you now? 22. So we talking well over 22 years ago that he was going, walking around with this afro and this speech and telling all of us we were victims of the white man's supremacy of Willie Lynch, and we all gonna fall victims to that. And here we are now, Blaine, talking about the same thing.
But that's the thing. And look at that, though, Blaine. That's 22 years ago.
Right.
A fallen victim to Willie Lynch. It's 25.
Right.
And we still falling victim to Willie Lynch.
The funny part is, he told me about a year ago, man, you was right.
Right. Yeah. Right. I was like, man, you was right. We definitely was missing the spot on that one. Jesus.
It's amazing that we are still in this same cycle.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Ward 3. What is Ward 3?
Ward 3 is the new Deborah Gray.
So she's Ward 3.
She's Ward 3. That is a portion of Mount Pleasant, a small piece of Buckeye, all the way over to the Slavic Village, and a piece of Union Miles.
I'm so impressed that the council president knows these wards like this. Look, that's what you're supposed to do.
I had to draw them.
I expect him to. I mean, I hope he knows them all because he put everybody
the
where
numbers,
they at.
the pockets. I can tell you where the numbers, the population is growing, where it's shrinking, which is another thing a lot of people don't realize. We got pockets of this city that are like dying. We can pick on Ward 4 and Ward 14 and some of these parts of the old Ward 7, the new Ward 8 and Ward 6. But and especially over in the northeast side in Glenville, that's the area where we lost the most population. So what I had to do, I had to stretch more of the east side wards further west, and I had to stretch most of the west side wards north and south.
Wow.
See, because of how much population we're losing, which is, I hope around census we really do a better job of talking about people really need to fill out these census forms.
Oh, yeah. I think you got to do a major campaign on doing that. I know the city used to, and they stopped giving resources. That was part of the thing before. I remember they used to have a whole thing where you can go out and work and do stuff and be a part of the census, and they cut back all the resources on that. And I would imagine with this administration, they probably have 2 people doing census this year.
Well, I'm on a national committee I chair called FAIR. It's called Finance Administration and Intergovernmental Relations for the National League of Cities. And one of the things that we talk about is the census. And they have reduced the staff tremendously.
I figured they would.
I mean, to the point where, you're supposed to be setting up the methodology of census now, not waiting until, the decennial. But they're trying to gut it now.
Let's go through these because I want to give you some time to talk about a couple other things that you wanted to talk about. And so these ones will be easy. 11, 13, 14, and 15.
11 is Nikki Hudson. She's running unopposed. She's also back from the Progressive Caucus,
correct.
and she's an activist who her claim to fame is working closely with Samira Rice and others around getting the Butterfly Garden to be a landmark and other things. So she's active. We've been getting to know each other the last few weeks.
Okay.
Then you said 15. 13
14,
is Brian Casey. Casey's actually unopposed. 14 is Jasmine Santana.
Okay, there
Jasmine
you go.
Santana is the Hispanic representation. Well, a lot of people don't realize this, but the Hispanic community this year wanted an opportunity to go after 2 seats because they feel that they have the population. And last time they were threatening a civil rights lawsuit because they wanted to make sure, just like we have to under civil rights law, when you have a certain population, you have to make sure that you give an opportunity for somebody to
Their
win.
population don't
They
vote.
wanted to actually have 2 seats.
Look at
But
all I
we
see
did
is
that.
your facial expression.
I see him. But bottom line is Jasmine is the 40% area. Then there's another area where Nikki Hudson is at, which is 30%, which was another reason why we couldn't give the councilwoman in Ward 5 what she wanted, because most of the area that we had to give to prop up the Hispanic community to give them an opportunity was that area that she served in Old Brooklyn and South Hills.
So 13,000 Hispanics in that area. 188 voted early. 366 walked through the door for a total of 4.1. She's unopposed. Okay.
And, like I told you, and let me say this, she went out and worked door to door. She went out and actually ran the campaign.
She got it.
And,
They always had an issue in trying to get their numbers turned up as it relates to, they may have the population, but it seemed like they don't get the turnout.
I think that people make a tremendous mistake not realizing, and I know me and you got some inside jokes. We can't do unfiltered today.
Unfiltered, we would have been going off.
I think that what people don't realize is the language barrier that a lot of the Hispanic and Latino community has. When you go in that community, it is not as everybody, especially with the older generation. The younger generation, oftentimes that's why there's a disconnect with the younger generations that understand English, and the parents and the grandparents oftentimes don't have English as a first language.
So is Charlie Slife unopposed?
Charlie Slife is unopposed. He's the Cam's Corner, West Park councilman, and Charlie's a good guy. They're doing good.
Charlie Slife is unopposed. Ward 15.
Yep, and he got the highest turnout.
He got what they voting for?
Well,
He
here's
got
the
the highest
thing.
turnout.
Here's the thing that you got to realize with some of these awards. They're sending messages. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So when it comes time to look at resources, and when it comes time to see where you're going to invest
That's correct.
and leverage,
They
you're
got
going to
a big
leverage
stand.
where the most active community is. It's why I think policing is so disproportionate, because it's based upon who makes calls. So if you get a Karen or a John that are calling all the time,
Right.
then they're going to get more police coverage. Whereas if you get Johnny May and Susan that don't call in Buckeye,
Right, it's correct.
guess who's going to get the services? The other ones that live in the other community that call all the time, not the ones that actually might need more policing.
Really?
Yeah. And that's why I say it's an inequitable model. And a lot of people don't realize that most models are built upon that,
So they
which is
should
why
call
people
more.
need to vote. You need to call, because if you don't call, you won't get put in the hot map, which is like a heat map, and that's how they deploy services, police services,
Really?
city services. Yeah, a lot of people
so
don't realize that.
in the east side,
We
they
need
hear
a
a lot
full-
of
we
stuff,
need a
but
full
we just
show on that.
Nobody
like we
Yeah.
got this
calling.
thing. Nobody gonna call the police.
That's the issue.
But hold
So
on,
when
here's
you ain't
the
calling,
other,
you
here's
ain't
the
getting
other
everything.
reason. Here's the other reason is because when you call the police, don't the police tell you who called?
You know what? Can I tell you the worst thing that happens to me all the time?
What's that?
And I'll give you a story. They always love to go say, your councilman called me. So one day, you know me, Ken, I know everybody from the boardroom to the streets. One day, one of my rough around the edges boys in the neighborhood that I knew, grew up with my sons, came over my house and said, Mr. Griffin, why didn't you just call me? Why didn't you just, why you send the police over my house? I didn't even know it was his house but I just knew I was getting calls because it was a big party going on. not knowing that this was the kid. But just think if this was some guy who was unhinged and the police went over there and said, your councilman told me to come over here. That happens all the time.
And that's why I don't think people call.
And there is a
people-
mistrust.
Right.
There's a mistrust. There's a
can tell you that
mistrust.
right now.
But I will tell you.
But wait
that-
a minute. Is that
Upload your mind to this.
Right.
This is what happens on the daily with us.
I'm like, are the police supposed to do that though?
No,
They're not supposed to do
no,
that.
and not only the police, the housing inspectors, we get blamed for everything and have no responsibility for anything. And that's the issue. And Ken knows this. It's a lot of hate that comes with this because people, the only person they see at the grocery store, the only person they see walking down to the academy getting wings, the only person they see or that they know from the neighborhood is Blaine Griffin. I hate to say it. They're not going to get access to their mayor. They're not going to get access to the congressperson. They're not going to get access to the governor. So most of the world's problems, 75% of what people bring me is not my responsibility, and no, they're not supposed to do that. But sometimes they get so overwhelmed that they just want somebody to bear the responsibility, so they blame council and say, go see your councilman or call your councilman. And they're not supposed to do that. And I have to raise a lot of sand.
Well, Blaine, we coming around the end. Uni just gave me that look. So this is what I need you to do. I wanted you to take the next 2-3 minutes and talk about some stuff that's on your mind, any announcements you want to make or anything. Then we're going to give it to the doc and we're going to get up out of here.
Well, just real quick, hopefully my colleagues will see fit to keep me as council president. That's the next step. We're going to have that conversation immediately. As soon as I leave here, I'll be making my rounds to talk with some of the folks to make sure that I can stay as council president. If that's the case, we want a very ambitious agenda. And I know that the first thing we're going to have to talk about is the Brown Stadium. And I just want everybody to realize, the listening public, it took the administration 2 years in order to negotiate their part of this deal. So it's going to take us some time really to peel back the layers to see everything from the stadium demolition to what kind of residual income we're going to get. I would like to see more residual income because we lose money. I know people are all caught up in the feelings of the stadium. I'm not caught up in the sentimental part of this. I'm more caught up in the fact of how much money we're going to lose. How much money are we going to save? One of the things that I would have liked to have done and other cities have done, I would have liked to have seen Cleveland own a percentage of the team. And if we would have been able to own a percentage of the team, then we could say we would have some kind of residual impact. Now, maybe too far in negotiations to have that conversation, but believe me, I'm talking to the Browns leadership every week, and we're going to come up with what we think is the best deal for the city of Cleveland as Cleveland City Council. So that's going to be first. We are going to have to look at some things around police reform. So there's some things we're going to look at there.
Go back to the Browns thing though. You're saying that's got to come in front of city council before you guys make a decision.
So we deal with everything as far as real estate and accept and expand cash.
Okay.
So we have to approve the terms of the deal because we have to approve any demolition, we have to approve any cash, and we have to approve any design concepts. So that's where our role, the law director has the ability to settle a lawsuit.
Okay.
But what has to be approved by council are any expenditures, any acceptance of grants, so that $25 million that they want to give needs to accept. And then we got to talk about how we spend the money. When I dealt with Bedrock, and I helped negotiate that part with Bedrock, I made sure that when they got their first check, they would disperse $5 million that we could utilize for city parks, infrastructure, or whatever else. We might need to have that conversation because right now the way that the lease looks or the way that it looks is that they want to put most of that money on the lakefront. And let me say this, I want a big, nice, lovely park downtown, but you got to help me make the math.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's where my head is at right now. We're going to have that conversation.
Okay. And police reform?
Police reform, we got to really look at how long we're going to be in this consent decree. Man, we spent a lot of money on this. And we got to figure out how we embed a structure that can maintain civilian oversight and constitutionally protected police. I think at some point we're going to have to look at redesigning or realigning the Police Review Board, the Citizens Police Commission. These are all functions where you have 3 or 4 different bodies performing similar functions, and we can't afford that anymore. So we're going to look at sometime in this next term how we try to align to continue to have the reforms that we've had, but maybe align the system better so that they're complementing each other as opposed to not duplicating any services.
Has that got anything to do with Unicorn was talking about earlier in the program with this big police?
No, let me say this, and I was going to address that. I've been around a long time, as you know, when I worked for Frank Jackson, and I used to work with a lot of those same guys. That's nothing new. We invest in the Northeast Ohio Violent Crime Coalition every year. What I did like about this is that the Adult Parole Authority is looking at playing a better role because of the repeat offenders.
Okay.
And what people don't realize is if I'm a police officer and Heather is a Adult Parole Authority official, and you're a suspect or a criminal, and I know you got something going on the street, she can have access to actually go and toss your house because you're on post-release control.
Okay.
As a police officer, I got to try to catch you in the streets. You see what I mean?
Okay.
So I like the fact that they're trying to do more collaboration around that. The thing that we have not, and where our system is being tested, is juvenile crime. The biggest issue I'm having is juveniles breaking into cars, trying to steal cars, busting out windows, being very disrespectful to elderly people. The biggest issue I'm having is these juveniles that are sometimes very, very aggressive. And at some point in time, we're going to have to figure out how do we give them the mental health services that they need, because we don't need to throw them all in jail, but we also need to make sure we do have some kind of accountability.
I think we need big belts. Go ahead, Doctor.
See,
it worked
Willie
for us,
Lynch.
didn't it?
Willie Lynch coming on in.
Big old belt.
Well, you know, I was going to say this earlier. The one thing that I want to remind voters is make sure your license aren't expired.
Right.
Oh, there you go. That's what happened to you.
Wow.
That's what happened to me today.
Yeah.
My license was expired, so now I had to take care of that. Now I got to go to the Board of Elections to show proof of my identity because I had to do a provisional
And they give you
ballot.
a piece of paper now.
And they give me a piece of paper. But the other thing is what's interesting, I didn't know my license was expired, but I flew last week. So it was not caught, and, you know, that could be due to TSA.
TSA.
Yep. But identification, I swear, was scanned, so I'm thinking the system should be reading. But I just want to tell voters, after dealing with, and that's what I told the people at the voting poll, is that it's one thing to have your license expired, but then you've given me the extra step that I'm going to get my license renewed. But now in order for my ballots account, I got to go now to the Board of Elections and take an extra step to show the proof. So these are the things that people need to be aware of and just paying attention when we really are talking about voting and voter turnout and figuring out how we can get a higher turnout, and no matter what the election is, no matter what it is, we need to be involved in the election process.
Well, you know, I think this is our second show we did on Election Day, and that's a good thing. Yeah, I was whining about my show being on a Tuesday and at this time, but I realized it worked out because that means we're on every election.
Every election.
So that means that we get an opportunity to make sure that we do our part leading up to election days and everything else along with this radio station to see if we can help increase voter turnout. And we get a chance to do it next year. As Blaine said, next year is midterms, and we're going to start kicking off our men's section meetings that we did. And Dr. Burton, along with you, we can probably work and get some women involved in this thing as well. And we're going to go ahead and start doing what we need to do to try to make a difference starting next year. Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Strategic Moves with Dr. Heather Burton and Kenn Dowell. We'll be back next week. Dr. Burton is running the show. I ain't going to be here. I'm going to take me a break. I'm going to let Dr. Burton have her show, and she's going to be on here talking about who knows what.
Ken going to be back.
She got it.
Right, Ken is going to be right here with me next week. See you next week.
No, I just thank y'all, man. And like I said, I mean, you know, we got to continue to lead. It's our time, guys. I mean, I know we were joking about how long all of us go back. Ken, you've been a leader. You've been a friend for a long time. Doc has been a leader. We got to continue to step up, man, and show this community the way. It's our time. So I hope that all of us continue to stay involved and stay engaged.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.
Peace.
Get ready, Cleveland. It's your turn to speak up. Call in.
OVU LP Cleveland, a Burton Bell car